Hey guys, welcome back to Choosing Recovery. I am Olivia.
I'm Scotty.
And today we have a great story. So let's go ahead and jump in. So what was your drug or drugs of choice if you had multiple?
Just alcohol.
So what age did you start using?
I believe I had a period where I tried alcohol for the first time at like 18, but I considered my first use at 19.
Okay.
Later on in life, okay? That's a first on our channel.
Yeah. How long did you use for?
Well, I'm 26. I stopped at 25, so do the math. From
So-
19 till 20, till 25.
Okay.
About 6 years.
Yep. So what led you to get clean?
Honestly, I lost everything, and my mental health was a big thing that I lost. I kind of lost my control, and it led me to a really scary place to where I wanted to take my own life. And kind of like a matter of, do we take our life or do we attempt to just try a new way of living? And I'm very grateful because initially I chose taking my life, and I believe that my family really came through, and God didn't allow me to end my life, and I got a second chance, and I'm very grateful that my family came in and helped me when it was needed.
Absolutely.
That's amazing. I'm glad you're here with us today. Definitely. Mental health is a big part of our recovery too. How are you staying clean today?
So I stay clean today by having a personal relationship with God. I attend AA meetings. I attend Celebrate Recovery meetings as well. I do therapy. So I take care of the mental health part, and I take that very seriously. And I make sure that I'm interacting with people throughout the day. If I'm struggling, I reach out to people and I try to get outside of myself, which in active addiction, I didn't know how to do, because how could I focus so much on someone else and asking how they're doing when I feel completely dead inside, where I can feel a little shaky inside, but getting outside of myself and truly asking someone how they're doing and being present for that has really helped me in my recovery as well.
It's amazing. A lot of wisdom. A lot of wisdom. So what is your biggest accomplishment within your recovery so far?
My biggest accomplishment has been my relationship with God. Because when I was in active addiction, it was always just like about me. How can I feel better? How can I gain this and that from this place and that thing? And my relationship with God has made it so that that it isn't about me, and I can think bigger picture. I can actually like think of other people and things outside of myself, and so strengthening that relationship with God has allowed me to step away from myself in a sense, to just kind of like take into account that there's other people and other things in life other than just like myself and sitting in self-pity.
If you could say something to somebody that's still out there actively using, what would you say to that person?
I would say, you'll be ready when you're ready. I've actually had a couple of these conversations recently with people who have reached out and have asked for my help because they're still in active addiction. And I try to think, what would I have wanted someone to say when I was still using? And it would just be like, just be grateful that you're alive today and you're still standing today, and whatever you have is something that you still have today, but that's not guaranteed tomorrow if you continue using, if you continue down this path, and that there is freedom, and it's there when you're ready.
What would you say to a family member of a loved one that's in active addiction?
Don't try to control them, because sometimes no matter what you say or do is going to really help anything, person to really want it for themselves. And so the best thing that you can do is just sort of step back, because honestly, that's what my parents had to do when I was getting really bad. They couldn't control me anymore, and they could never control me, because bottom line, I was gonna do what I was gonna do. It didn't matter what they said, no matter how much I loved them. They needed to step back and allow me to come to the end of myself so I could accept recovery.
Great answer.
Yeah, I love that. My sponsor always says that to me. She's always like, I had to come to the end of myself, and I never knew what she meant. And then I was working the steps and stuff, and it like hit me, and I was like, whoa. Like, you have to get out of yourself. She was like, you always have to run into yourself before you find God. She ran into the back of herself or something, and I was like, oh, wow, yeah. Oh, awesome.
It's fun. It's needed. I'm a little over a year sober, and I think something that I have struggled with the last year has been, do I qualify to be an alcoholic? Do I qualify as someone who is addicted to a substance? Because as I go to meetings and I hear people's stories, I hear different stories than my own. You know, like I stayed in denial for as long as I did coming into recovery, because I wasn't an everyday drinker. I was a once a week binge drinker. I was perfectionist at best. I had to have everything perfect during my week in order to earn my, hopefully, Saturday night binge drink. And when I say hopefully, I was hopeful that it would happen on a Saturday night. But if it didn't happen Saturday, it was going to happen a Sunday night, Monday night, come into my week, and I didn't want that to happen. And as I hear other people's stories and how it didn't align with the way that I used, I got into my head at points during the last year and told myself, you know, like, is this really something that you truly do struggle with? And I'm grateful for my sponsor, because she reminds me all the time about, like, well, go back and see for yourself, like, revisit that first step over and over. Did your life become unmanageable? Absolutely. I lost my mind. I lost my car. I lost my apartment. I lost my job. That was a really big thing for me. I had this job that I truly loved and appreciated, and I did not deserve whatsoever. And I lost it because I chose to drink and continue leading my mental health into a very scary place, which ultimately led me to do things that I was not proud of, and caused that to just spiral over and over. And so, but I lost my job before I came into recovery, about a month before I went into recovery. So it just shows that even when I had and even lost those things I really valued, it wasn't going to stop my drinking. It wasn't going to stop this obsessive mindset over when can I drink all over again. I suffer from a lot of anxiety and depression, and especially my anxiety drove me a lot to want and ultimately feel like I needed to drink. A lot of things scared me. I scared me, and I just didn't know how else to cope sometimes. That was my way of actually taking like a deep breath at the end of the week, after a week of being anxious and scared and depressed and confused with everything about my life. And finally, that night where I could drink, it was like, okay, I can breathe. And then the cycle would just start all over again and things like that. And worst of all, I hurt people I never meant to hurt. And I never meant to hurt them, but I did hurt them. And that's probably the hardest thing throughout this entire process of getting sober, is I can make peace with myself. I'm trying really hard to do that because of all my faults and all the things, all the destructive things I did in my youth. But every now and again, I will just have this deep moment of sadness that I had to hurt all of these people in the process. And I'm grateful that I can face my family and, you know, talk to them and tell them how sorry I am. But there are those people that I haven't seen really since my youth that definitely deserve an apology. And I'm grateful for the steps, because I will get there. I will get to a point where I will go out and attempt to make amends, but for now I'm not there yet, and I will continue working on rebuilding and strengthening the relationships that I have right now. So it's been a crazy ride, it's been a scary ride, and it's been worth it because as far back as I can remember, I have not really seen a future for myself. I have not had a time in my life where I ultimately didn't want to be alive. The recovery showed me that I can heal my heart and my mind enough to where I want to live every day. And that's really scary for me to say because those scary thoughts have been in my mind since a really young age. And recovery has freed me from that. And for that, I'm very grateful for doing this.
Awesome. I can relate to your story on so many levels. And you sharing your story is incredibly important. There's a guy in my home group that was not your average alcoholic, right? And he said that I was just a binge drinker. He would do it every couple months, but when he drank, and he would black out, he would lose his car, and his story is different from everybody else's because he wasn't like physically dependent on it to where he had to drink every day. And I think those stories are incredibly important because there's people just like you, like you're questioning it. You're like, but do I have a problem? And then you go back to the steps and you're like, okay, yes. And I think that's incredible to just realize that. And so many people are going to relate to you. People are in the same position that you're in. I'm incredibly proud of you. You should be proud of where you're at today. What you struggle with your mental health, I can absolutely relate. And it's a great message that you have to carry. So
thank you. Yes, I try to remind myself that that there are people sitting in my position with how I was drinking that are completely normalizing it at this point. Because what's the harm in drinking once a week and maybe having a little over, the normal amount of drinks that one can consume in a night? Because you go to college and you hear about parties and you watch TV shows and movies of people, just going crazy. And so, what's the harm in one time a week and everything? And I think for anyone, which I've been asked before, how do you know that you're an alcoholic? And first off, I'll say, no one can tell you that you're an alcoholic.
Right.
You come to that decision. But I'll ask the question of, how is your life with drinking? I don't care how much you drink. I don't care even kind of what you're like when you're drinking. When you're sober and you're living your everyday life, you find yourself kind of going through something stressful or scary or sad or something that confuses you, and your first thought is to drink, because that was mine. It was always mine during the week. And so that's where I was like, that's not normal. That should not be normal for me. I should be having thoughts of I'm gonna go reach out to this person, go talk this out. I'm gonna go for a run. I'm going to do this, and that. But it always was, it's okay, I can just drink. It's okay, I can just drink. Like that was gonna solve anything, and ultimately it put me here. So
a lot of people don't see that their life's unmanageable. They don't see that it really is affecting their daily activities. Whether it's waking up in the morning, going to work, doing things like that, making excuses for things that you used to enjoy. That's where it slowly starts to slip in, and that's when you think the solution is actually becoming a problem. So.
And people don't notice that it is a chemical imbalance, which can scientifically lead to it being a disease, which means it's progressive, it's fatal. So any time it could just be oh, it's normal right now, and then you're thinking about it daily, oh, Saturday's gonna come, and then all of a sudden it's well, it's Friday night, why not? I wake up Saturday, and it's noon now, so let's drink, and it progresses, and it can take a long time or it can take a short time. And your TikToks are great. I love that people are relatable. You're real, you're just well, this is me today, and I love that, and that's what we need. we need the normalization of I'm not okay today, you know, or this is where I'm at, you know, and that's great. I love that you do that.
So my name is Niina Stensrud, and my sober day is November 18th, 2019. And I am grateful that God kept me alive, brought me where I am today, and has allowed me to just share my experience and not feel alone.
Woo-woo.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you for this opportunity. I love your videos too. The way I went through all of them. And you guys have started something really cool. I'm very grateful for you too.
Aw,
Thank
thank
you.
you. We think it's very important to get everyone educated and show the real side and get the message across. So
Show
thank
people that it works. We all have the same message, just a different story.